In this video, we're going to show you the method that we've developed over the years to glue up balsa wood arches for our balsa bridge projects. As always, when we're gluing on the balsa, it's best to work on a piece of foam board with a piece of wax paper over top of it. Now there are a couple methods. This is just the one that tends to work the best. You take a piece of foam board and you trace or draw the shape of the arch you want, and you carefully cut it out with an X-Acto knife so that you have a positive and a negative mold. Okay. Then you take one side, doesn't matter which, I prefer the upper, and pin it into place so that it is on top of your foam board and wax paper, and that it doesn't want to move and it can't slide around. Might want to put the pins at a couple different angles just to keep it from wanting to slide. It doesn't take a lot. Okay. Then you get the other side ready to go. You take your 2 sticks of balsa. Okay. Now this is just dry fitting. I don't have glue in these yet. Okay. But you'll put them together like this, and then very slowly and just gently ease this together and bend the pieces. Okay. Now, you may want to check. Some balsa will bend easier in one direction rather than another. Okay. But once you have your pieces cut to length, and usually a little longer than you need them, there is a little bit of waste. Okay. I've said here that is glued up. Now, you only want glue between the faces where the wood's touching the other piece of wood. Okay. So I'm going to set this down, and I'm going to very gently slide this together. Now, some people insist that you might want to soak these in water beforehand. You can do that. It makes them a little more pliable. But if you're careful, I don't think you normally need to use water. Now, I'm just pushing this down to make sure it stays perfectly flat. This mold has been used a number of times, and it's got a few little imperfections in it. But I'm just going to hold it in place like that. Make sure it's pushed together. And I am going to pin the bottom one in place. Now, you may be wondering why I don't have wax paper on the mold. Unless I'm very sloppy with the glue, I shouldn't need it. It makes it hard to get a nice, to fold it around the form nicely. So don't be excessive with the glue, and you should be okay. If you have any spots where this doesn't seem to want to lay flat, you can always try to come across the top with a pin to help keep it flat. Hopefully it's not needed. Anyway, once you have this squared up, leave it sit for a couple hours. Put it in the cupboard. When you come back the next day, you can unpin it, and you should have an arch that holds 98% of the shape. It might spring back a little bit, but it should really hold the shape. Now, an alternative version would be something like this, where you only use one form. You bend the balsa around it and use a few pins against it to hold it in place. In either case, you want to hold the balsa so that it dries in this shape with the glue between the layers. Because for it to unfold and straighten back out, those 2 pieces of wood have to slide over one another. And when you glue them, they can't slide. They're going to maintain their shape.